How's everybody doing today? Today we're doing a spoiler cast. We did this back with The Wolf Among Us Episode 2. Today we're going to do this with the newly released DLC Left Behind. Came out yesterday. Oh my god. So much to talk about. So many good things. How are you both doing today?
Pretty good, man.
Good.
See you guys.
Good. Yeah, you're finally back.
Cannot complain after getting to play Left Behind. Cannot complain at all.
Yeah. Looks like we have a few people in the chat. How are you all doing? Thanks for turning out again. Before we get into anything too deep, like I said, this will be full of spoilers. I just want to talk in a spoiler-friendly environment where we can just say anything we want. Just keep in mind this will be extremely spoiler-heavy for both Left Behind, and it's kind of impossible to say everything we want with that without spoiling the original game as well. So keep that in mind from this point forward. We're spoiling everything. So for the most part, we just want to talk about our opinions, our thoughts, what we did and didn't like in the game, and I don't know, we'll go from there. But first off, I want to start off with your first impressions.
I was just happy and to fall back into the Last of Us universe. And the guitar play, the spores sprinkling over the screen, all that stuff was just awesome. Yeah. And so it was just nice to get back into that well-crafted game mechanic. And so all of it was really just becoming more familiar. Yeah. You know, I had to relearn the mechanics, the gameplay style. But my first impression, awesome. Yeah. Just starting it off.
On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give it?
Oh, it falls right in line with The Last of Us. I thought it was one of the better, even though it's very short, but one of the better DLCs I played.
Yeah. So on a scale of 1 to 10, you didn't give us a number. You got to give us a number.
It's got to be what, 9 to 10? 9.
9. Okay. I've been seeing lots of 9s in various reviews I've looked through now that I've finished it. What about you, Mike Guy? Scale of 1 to 10, what'd you give it?
I'd say I've got to give it a 10.
Yeah.
It was just a nice continuation of the story that ran very well with the actual story of the game. Mm-hmm. And as we get into talk about it, I've got my own ideas of how to play the game with the Left Behind DLC as an added part to it.
Yeah. Me personally, I think this is the best DLC I've ever played, ever. I've never played a DLC that felt, I don't know, like whenever we get DLC, it adds stuff to the game, but I've never had a DLC that makes me feel the same way that I felt the first time I played the game. And this did that. I got the exact same emotions and feelings, just the same exhilaration as playing The Last of Us for the very first time. So I'd have to give it a 10 out of 10. I've never played a DLC that has been this fine-tuned, this well thought out, and just firing on all cylinders. So it's definitely a 10 for me.
Rich gets thrown around a lot to a lot of games, but the one thing that I did after I exhaled, after the thing was over, I said this was heavy and rich in a good way.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that they was able to craft something and put it all in that amount of time. Just absolutely wonderful. Those guys are really, man, at the top of the development game right now. Across the board.
Yeah. I did want to let you guys know we have a few giveaways that we're planning for this. The intention behind this was to give away season pass codes for the Last of Us, so that people could go out and buy the Left Behind DLC. But then I realized that if you're watching this, you've probably already played it. So they're $20 PSN cards. We'll be giving away. I've got 2 of them right here. We'll be giving those away later in the show. So if you're interested in that, if you haven't played Left Behind, you want to check it out, or you're really into multiplayer and don't have the season pass, or if you just want something else on PSN, I don't care. I didn't really think it through until after I made the purchase. So anyway. If you haven't played Left Behind, it's definitely great, but you probably aren't watching this until you have played it. So, what was your favorite moment throughout? Or I want to explain the DLC for people who don't have a PS3, haven't played it, but still want to know what it's about. Basically, if you've seen The Last of Us, like the campaign being played through, there's a point in the game where there's a pretty large gap, and it's right after Joel gets impaled with the pipe in the Colorado Museum, I think is where they were. There's a pretty large gap between Joel getting impaled and Joel getting healed. And they take that gap, and you're playing through it. You play as Ellie through the entire campaign. Throughout the entire game, you're trying to get the antibiotics and get back to Joel and heal him. At the same time that that's going on, there's a side story that they kind of intertwine throughout the entire DLC. And that's in the exact same location, same environment, but it is prior to the events of The Last of Us, where you are with Ellie's friend Riley. You find out how Ellie came to become one of the Fireflies. You find out what happened to Riley, because you heard in the original game that Riley was killed, and you find out why Ellie had the bite mark on her arm. So, in a nutshell, that's basically the premise of the DLC, which I thought was very well thought out. So what was your guys' favorite moment? And then we'll get into more specifics. Do you have anything specifically that's just stood out to you?
That's a rough question when you talk about how great this thing was. My favorite moment, and it's all wonderful, was Badass Ellie.
Yeah.
It's the very end when she finally gets the med pack from the hospital. She realizes and she contemplates and thinks about all the things that she lost before in her past, and she has to get this to Joel, and no one's going to stop her. And so it's the confluence of all the action and her getting past all the obstacles to get back to Joel. That just drove everything through. And I think that's the part where goosebumps were on my back, and I don't think it went away until the credits were finished.
Yeah. What about you, Mega? What was your favorite moment?
I'd have to say it would be the last scene with Ellie and Riley in the mall in Boston. Like after they're kind of talking about what they're gonna what their options are they can do after they've been bitten. Because here,
let's get all poetic and lose our minds together.
It is, and it's and it gives you that like real groundwork and understanding like why she fought so hard for Joel that you see in the game as it stands, and like in the DLC, and then also the main game, because it's that she lost this one person that she loved way back when, and it didn't seem like she had any of that connection until she met Joel, and had that love like a father-daughter, where her and Riley were another thing, but it was that love, that you saw and why she fought so hard for Joel, and I just thought that was fantastic.
Yeah. There's someone in the chat said they found it cool how you played alone trying to help Joel, and then you played with Riley. Throughout the entire DLC, like I said, you're always playing as Ellie. Half the game you're by yourself, and half the game you're kind of escorted. Through those escort scenes, it's kind of like it's before Ellie really develops her combat. So you get to see Ellie before she knows what she's doing, and then Ellie like at her best.
Yeah. Yeah.
My favorite moment throughout the entire thing wasn't really story related. I liked all the little nuances that they added throughout the entire game. All the collectibles, all the little side environmental things you can interact with. The Halloween store, I think, was my favorite part. Did you guys interact with the Magic 8 Ball, the Skeleseer?
So the real question, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And the next question is, I want to know, what did y'all guys leave the Halloween store? Which mask did you leave with? And did you try all the masks on?
Yes, I tried them all on. I think the one I left with was the Wicked Witch.
I left with the Happy Crow, whatever that thing is.
Nice.
Yeah, but to your question, yeah, tried the Skeletor deal, guy. Went through every question.
The end was hilarious. I laughed out loud when Ellie was like, "Well, Skeleseer can suck my dick."
It's so real. I chuckled too, man, and I realized how just how real their conversations are, and one of the things that they did that I thought was so amazing, and I know we're going to talk about a lot of things. There's so many things I want to touch on, but their interplay.
Yeah. I don't know what just happened. My computer just exploded. Dropping frames. You guys still there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Hold on a second. I think I'm gonna have to stop the stream for just a second and then bring it back because well, I guess I could do it this way. I don't know, my internet kind of flickered out for a second there. Hopefully it's okay, but I don't know what happened. So. Anyway, just pick up right where you left off. Sorry about all that. You're talking about the interplay between the different characters?
Yeah, and I was just saying that we got some feedback. Can you guys hear that?
No.
All right, well. One of the things that I thought was amazing is just Riley and Ellie's conversation. I thought it was real. I think the writing continues to be one of the best aspects of Naughty Dog's development process. And you never stop to say, okay, it just never breaks immersion. That's another thing that's so good about the game. You just are enveloped in everything that's going on, especially the characters' relationship.
Yeah. So many games have collectibles that are just mindless and pointless, and it seems like Naughty Dog really even pays attention to those little small things. Like every collectible, every optional conversation pertains to the story in some form. We have all the collectibles which are telling the side story of this military group that was part of the quarantine zone that were trying to rescue somebody. Something went wrong. You have like each collectible, you start to develop that story and figure out what's going on with them. All the optional conversations, you're getting backstory on Ellie and Ellie's mom and Riley, what's going on there. Just they pay attention to so many little factors throughout the entire thing.
You mentioned something, and I guess we'll talk about this at some point. When you have an opportunity to ask Riley a question, you're given 4 options. One of them is about her mom. One of them is I don't remember all of them, but the one I selected was, "Why did you leave?"
And she didn't answer.
Riley didn't answer the question.
Right.
And I'm wondering what you guys selected and what was the response.
The first time I asked about her mom. My second playthrough I asked about why Riley left and also got no response. The first time I asked about the mom, I don't remember exactly what she said, but she actually went into some detail with Marlene, and there's actually an answer there.
Wow.
But I don't remember exactly what it was.
Ask about the mom, and she does give a little bit of information about Ellie's mom and Marlene.
Yeah.
Thus, I must replay the game multiple times.
What difficulty did you guys play on?
Played on normal.
Okay.
I wanted to get the breadth of it. I am going to replay on very hard, just to have everything wrapped up. But yeah, I didn't want to take anything away from the story initially.
Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to take a few minutes to talk about the trophies, since we that's kind of our main focus on the podcast. So I did the same thing. I started on normal, did the first playthrough, kind of just experienced it for myself. It wasn't very long, so I wasn't really concerned about having to play through a second time. Played through the whole thing, kind of just went at my own pace, explored as much as I felt that I could. Found all the collectibles except for one in my first playthrough. Then I went back later on and played again on Survivor. The only trophy that I wasn't able to get was the water gun fight. I got all the other trophies. I thought that water gun fight was a pain. It was cool. It's a cool idea.
You know what it's an interplay. It plays back to, and this is all the interlaces between the main story and the DLC that Mike got mentioned earlier. Doesn't it? It just reminded me so much of the chase scene between Nolan's character, the crazy psycho leader of that little area in the wintertime, and Ellie. Remember how she had to hide behind the bars and he was
you're
chasing.
right.
They did so much interlay.
I never realized that.
Transitions across this game. It's amazing. There's 2 or 3 other ones as well, but that's what that reminded me of. I did get that trophy. I did not, and I searched everything. I did not get the collectibles trophy. Very disappointed about that.
Yeah, like I said, I missed one of them. I missed a couple of the optional conversations in the Halloween store. I guess there's one point where Riley runs to the back corner and changes her mask and puts on a Dracula mask, and I missed that conversation.
Oh, I missed that one too.
Yeah, there's a yellow tent just before you go into the Halloween store, and she gives some backstory on Winston. There's 2 optional conversations there that I walked into the tent, but nothing happened. I guess I had to wait for Riley to come in.
There's a picture on the back desk of Winston, and when you go to it, it gives the option for one of the optional conversations there, and I know I missed the optional conversation, the collectibles, and I was taking my time trying to just look around everything and go through everything during it.
Yeah, my first playthrough it didn't give me the prompt, but my second playthrough it did. So like I said, I think I just wasn't waiting on Riley. Some of the other trophies you had to do were you had to play the Jack game, Jack Racing in the arcade. Did you guys find that?
Yeah, I did play the Jack Racing. I played Angel Knives. Yeah, but I guess I got to go back and play.
Yeah, before you go to the Angel Knives machine, if you go to the corner in the back left, there's a Jack Team Racing, and Ellie sits down in there, and if you haven't seen it, she sits down in there and just interacts with the machine. It's not as cool as the Angel Knives encounter, but it's just basically another optional conversation.
It's also a nice little Easter egg to some of Naughty Dog's prior work.
Yeah. What did you guys think of the Angel Knives fight?
I thought it was neat. I really enjoyed it.
Did you guys get the trophy for not getting hit?
No.
No.
Oh.
No. Yeah. It took me about halfway through for me to realize the controls.
They're laid out on the screen.
I had you know what? I didn't know. I didn't know what was going on, man. I had the greatest comeback of all time to win.
I didn't have any problems with it at all. I actually knocked it out on my first try. I thought it was really cool how they took like a broken machine and Ellie closes her eyes and it brings up the whole fighting game environment, and you're just getting narrated by Riley. The whole way they did that, I thought they did that really well.
Something to point out: the
Angel
Knives arcade game is actually was in Billstown in the pizza parlor.
Yep.
So that was a nice little throwback there, seeing that game, and it adds context because I believe there's like an optional conversation there. It adds a little context to that. So it's, Naughty Dog does not waste anything, and they've once again proved that with this.
Yeah, it was another one of those transitional interlays, and if I recall, when she found it, she said "awesome" or something, and it's so much interlace. Very good pickup, my guy.
You'd mentioned that Naughty Dog doesn't waste their time with anything. They took 8 months to make this DLC, and I think they spent that entire month, that entire time working on it really hard. I think they did a great job. There is a link that goes. I'll give you the link to the IGN site. There's Left Behind Twitter feeds. I don't know if you guys have seen this yet. This has been going on, I guess, since August. They've had these like private Twitter accounts, but there's accounts for individual citizens that were part of the game, and all the different shops, like the pet stores there, the pharmacies there, like all the different shops in the the Colorado Mall. And these Twitter accounts, you can actually, if you go read the entire feed, like they go all the way back to August and September. It starts off, everything's normal and fine. You can like watch the outbreak slowly occur and just see the chaos. And like I said, they can't fake dates on tweets, so they've been doing this they've had this in mind for a while. I thought that was pretty impressive. I've never seen a company take a video game development to this level. I think it's amazing.
You know, Flip, Naughty Dog said right after The Last of Us released that they were thinking about or had some ideas about the DLC. We'll be working on it shortly. And every time I hear developers say that, I always call BS. Of course they were working on the DLC way before they got ready to release the main game. But in this case, this is one of the few developers who were, quite frankly, very honest about it. And, you know, you talked about the 8 months and the Twitter feeds. Yeah. I just find it absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mike. I thought you was going to say something.
Oh, sorry. Well, the like listening to Neil Druckmann and Bruce Staley kind of talk about it and how the like Twitter feeds came to be. It's like I don't remember the exact parts of the conversation, but it was you know, on the spoiler cast that IGN did about it. You know, it's just great how they've got people that are thinking of these things to enhance the experience. It may not necessarily be in the physical game itself, but when you go outside the game, you can see these little neat little things that they've done, and it's just, you know, you tip your hat to them, and it's just like it's sad that this is the only single player DLC we're going to get for it, but it gives a lot of excitement for, you know, what's going to come in the future for them. Yeah. As far as their DLC goes, because they've put so much time, quality, and love into this. You know, you just kind of want to see, you know, what's next, what's coming up on the horizon next from them.
Right. Last week in the podcast, when we got the announcement that this would be the only single-player DLC, I had mentioned that Naughty Dog had released a statement saying that they didn't want to waste anybody's time. They wanted to deliver a product that is going to actually mean something they pour their time into, actually develop something that people want to play, people enjoy. So if they keep delivering like this, I guess they're holding true to what they said. So there has to be some reason why there's not going to be more single player DLC, because
they said they're working on. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, the thing that they said, you know, in that like IG spoiler cast, the only reason I reference is because it was Neil Druckmann and Bruce Staley talking a lot about the game. Is that, you know, when they go to something, their thing is, do they have a good story to tell? You know, do they have something to tell?
Right.
And
I'm saying they tapped out they've given you us all the information they could about the game. Like there's nothing else they could do without just dragging it on, making like Saints Row DLC if they were to do more. They're not. Yeah. It's good they're not going to waste our time with something like that. Come on.
Don't tell me you don't like being Flintstone and Betty, do you? That's awesome.
Saints Row's DLC was terrible. It was the worst. That Christmas DLC with Saints Row 4 was awful. So the next thing I wanted to talk about, what was your reaction when you saw that kiss?
See, I was about to throw that out there too. You know,
my jaw dropped. I was just shocked. I was not expecting it. Yeah, I was caught off guard.
I was caught off guard as well, but I thought it was incredibly brave of Naughty Dog, but I also thought it was incredibly innocent. You know, you talked about when she went to this yellow camp inside the mall, and she called him a hunk. You know, Ellie's growing up. There's this emotional attachment that she has with Riley. They're in the middle of this chaos, but also having something very wonderful and discovering. And it was an emotional push that she did. And she immediately followed off with, I don't know what I just did, or I don't know what just happened.
She said sorry, and the other guy, Riley, asked for what?
I'm sorry?
After the kiss, Ellie said sorry. She apologized.
For what? That's right. Absolutely for what? And what do you do next? I don't know. You know. But I thought it was more of a I thought it was well done. Yeah. It wasn't a declaration of anything. I think from Naughty Dog's perspective, I think it was just an explosion of emotion. And I'm not saying what Ellie is either way, but I just, at the end of the day, I thought it was very brave, and it didn't break story for me at all.
They kind of alluded to it throughout the game. There's the photo booth, that sequence where you do take the pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Right after that, they just stare at each other and they're like look into each other's eyes. And when I was going through that for the first time, I thought to myself, "Are they gonna kiss?" And I felt odd for thinking that, but I felt like I was I don't know, I felt immature there for a second, and then it actually happened. So throughout the thing, they actually allude to that with their conversations, how they kind of argue, kind of like a couple, and then I guess they built up to it, and then finally did it. People in the stream, they were all shocked as well. I saw tons of exclamation marks. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Wait, what just happened? Oh my god! It just blew up.
For me, while I was playing it, it's kind of like you, Flip, based off of, like, the chemistry, how they were talking to one another. I was expecting something that happened between the two of them, and that just kind of culminated, and it wasn't anything that was I guess perverse. It wasn't anything perverse. It was two people that genuinely cared a lot about each other, because at one point, right, Riley comments back to Ellie. I forget what she said necessarily beforehand. When asking her about singing, she's like, "You're the only one that can make me to stay." That was kind of like that,
Yeah.
like push over the edge there. That you knew that this was more, and it kind of like hearing what Neil Druckmann and Bruce Staley had to say. That was the plan all along. That this was, their story of their relationship to work to kind of like work in conjunction with Ellie and Joel's relationship.
See, I didn't get that at all. I thought they had just had a very deep and wonderful friendship. And that's all it's ever been up until that point. Remember, the kiss happened. It was spontaneous. It was an emotional burst. And it was immediately followed with, "What the F did I just do?" And the return was, "Hey, nothing's wrong." So I got that everything around them and about them was just fantastic, wonderful friendship with an emotional burst that happened that was okay with both of them at the end of it.
Yeah.
And that's all. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I want to call this conspiracy for a second here. Something that I didn't know happened until after I played the DLC. Like, I played through it, and then I got back on the internet because I thought it was safe. Now that I knew everything, I wasn't going to get spoiled anywhere. All over, like, I went to the GameFly forums, and I was reading through there, just trying to get people's opinions, and all over the place. It was happening on Twitter. It was happening on Facebook. Everyone's talking, Ellen Page is gay. Oh my God, Ellen Page is bi. Ellen Page came out of the closet. And I was like, wow, these people are just relentless with their spoilers. Apparently, Ellen Page, which I thought was odd because ever since The Last of Us got announced, they've been comparing Ellie to Ellen Page. Mm-hmm. So we have this thing with Ellie, and then Ellen Page did it the day before. Somebody's trying to do a publicity stunt somewhere, or Naughty Dog has someone who's a fortune teller in their office. But I thought it was very strange that both those happened at the same time.
Oh, it's she came out in a very emotional speech, a very good speech. Like, I'll add, that I watched earlier today, and it's like, in support of other people, that, like, younger people that are struggling with their identities. So, like, it was definitely a very, very powerful and good speech that she gave, when she did, come out. So, like, that, it's kind of interesting after you get done playing it, though. Like, that shock value, not like in a bad way, that you turn around and, like, you see this, like, all over your Facebook news feed, Yahoo homepage and whatnot. There's that just announcement.
Yeah. Is there anything specifically you guys want to talk about?
Yeah, I did. I wanted to bring up something. So, right after The Last of Us, one of the biggest conversation topics was, did Joel do the right thing? Right. And I've written about it and been on fast master discussions, and it always splits with Joel is a selfish bastard, and or Joel, thought about it as his daughter and he saved his daughter. My position has always been, and I'll keep this very brief, is that all throughout The Last of Us, and I played it 5 times through, the conversation in LA proves, I believe, without a shadow of a doubt, that Ellie wanted to live. She was a fighter. She wanted to swim. She wanted to do a lot of different things. She didn't know that she was going to lay on the bed and die when she went to the Fireflies to Marlene. I think this DLC unequivocally makes it very clear, based on that last emotional conversation between she and Riley, that she's a fighter, right? Mm-hmm. That was the message. I think Naughty Dog made that very clear. Fight to live. Option 1 isn't an option.
Right. So you said
what you guys thought about that?
You'd agreed with Joel's reasoning, or what were you saying?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, because I think Joel knew, whether Joel did it selfishly or not,
right.
Joel, through the relationship with Ellie, that whole campaign through those 3-4 seasons, he knew Ellie wanted to live.
Yeah.
And I don't think you spend that time with anybody, in the conversations that we were a part of through the game made that very clear. But what I was struck with more than anything else, and Mike, you talked about that last conversation that they had, how powerful it was the message that it made very clear to everybody, in my opinion, was, you know what, we're going to fight. Flip, you mentioned the funniness around it, about the politically die or go crazy together, lose their mind together. Fighting is just as much as part as Ellie, and surviving is just as much a part as Ellie as anything else. And so, without question, she would have never agreed to lay her life down, even if it was to save humanity.
Yeah. Yeah, I always felt that Joel looked at Ellie the same way he did Sarah. After losing his daughter and then finding this girl who he grows to relate to and grows to care for, I felt like his decision was just. I didn't disagree with it at all. It was dark, but I didn't disagree with it.
It was very dark. What about you, Mike?
It's I agree with Joel's decision. But like how I kind of look at it is that it was Riley that was giving those options, not Ellie. So it was more or less Ellie relying on Riley's strength, because Ellie's comment was, "What's option 3?" She wanted to know what the third option was, and just her response to Joel when she asked Joel about it, it was kind of like, you're telling me the truth, right? But the beauty of it is we don't know. We can only infer from what we've seen. Would she have been willing to do it if it would have cost her life? We don't know, but we know she wanted to help people, and if she could supply the cure, she could have. But you could look at it as that she would have been willing to give her life if it meant no one else would lose someone that they cared about like she did because of this. So there's so many ways you can look at it and interpret it, and I think that's one of the beauties that Naughty Dog does, is they leave that up to us to interpret it, and that's where we get so much more invested in it, and it just adds to that, because it's like, that's why I said to me that end scene in the mall with Ellie and Riley, because I think it left more questions than it answered, at the end of it.
I don't know. I'll leave my position with this. There's a part in The Last of Us where Joel and Ellie is walking, and they pass a couple of stringed up wasn't Firefly, military folks, and they were going through kind of a back alley around the corner, and Ellie asked Joel a question. Well, why would the military do this? Why would they block off the roads and preserve the food? And Joel said, well, I guess it's sacrifice the many to save a few, or sacrifice a few to save the many, or something like that. And Ellie says, well, that sucks. And he says, yeah, underneath his breath. Ellie is not a believer of sacrificing anybody for the many or for the few. In my opinion, I just thought there's so many little small conversations across the game. I think you have the fight, we're going to fight and survive. You have Ellie pushing through in the DLC to save Joel no matter what. All of that makes me such a fan of Ellie. But I agree with you what you're saying though. Naughty Dog left it open. We don't have a definitive answer. Mm-hmm. I just felt like it was pretty clear at the end of the DLC.
Yeah. I think a lot of Ellie's decisions and the way she acted throughout the original game was all based off of things Riley had taught her. Because as you're going through the DLC, all the past chapters, you have, like when you get to the Halloween store, Ellie boosts Riley up and Riley goes and opens the door. You do that throughout the campaign. You do that as Joel. You boost Ellie up and Ellie goes and finds the key or unlocks the door or whatever she does. At the very end of the DLC, Riley helps you up and you go and you find a way in for Riley. When Riley gets attacked, Ellie kills someone for the first time. She does her first kill. Just little things like that throughout the entire exchange between Ellie and Riley really made me feel like I feel like Ellie was very impressionable at that time, and she took pretty much everything that Riley was about and tried to make it herself.
Yeah. How do y'all think about that last neck slice from Ellie?
That was graphic. That was gruesome. I've never seen someone get their throat slit from that angle. Wow.
Ellie was a stone cold killer.
Yeah.
Into that, man.
And then Joel just builds on that foundation and just teaches her how to survive.
Yeah, when Joel hands Ellie the gun for the first time, and Ellie says, "I got this,"
Now you know why she was okay with it.
Yeah, so Mike, you're right. Everything, I think it goes back, right, to what we all have been talking about. It is so amazing, the interplay with this DLC across the entire The Last of Us. It's almost like, gosh, dog, they built the DLC first.
Yeah, it seems like
That's what it feels like.
Yeah. I can't tell which one I like more. I like the DLC so much, I might have liked the DLC more than the original game. They're both that good.
Like, one of the comments for, like, the reviews that have been out there is that the game, could have been better with, the DLC would have been better without any combat at all. And there's a part of me that would tend to agree with that, because just the narrative of it alone was enough. And it was just the story, just immersing yourself in it, and in a day in their lives. And so it was nice to see that. The combat in the game is fun as can be, but it would have been risky on their part to exclude it, but at the same time, I don't think it would have lost anything if they would have dropped any of the combat altogether and just made it strictly story driven. But it's you can at this point here you can only fantasize to yourself on what would make it better to you, if it's actually possible to make it better.
Yeah.
Did it take anything away from you, Mike? The combat, did it take anything away from your gameplay at all?
No, but it would just lead for more time to interact with Ellie and Riley. Because when I started it, because they, Naughty Dog is great at this about, keeping lids on things. Everything was, that you read in just little blurbs, because, of course I tried to read as little as possible, that it was just Ellie and Riley in a mall.
Right, I remember this. Then people started freaking out that there wouldn't be any combat in there, and I almost feel like that's the reason why they added that. All the present stuff might be in response to all the people freaking out about it.
From what they've said, that was the plan all along,
right?
To do it like that. But it's when you start out and you're it's the Colorado scene after Joel impales himself. I'm like, what's going on here? Did I actually start up a save file?
I did the same thing. I was really caught off guard because I was in the live stream and I was explaining what this was supposed to be, how this is like a prequel to the game, and then we started it, and I had all my like collectibles from the campaign. She pulls a backpack out. I've got supplies already, and I was really confused. And then, as I went through, I saw the two little storylines that we're following.
And like I thought that I thought that was fantastically done, and it's like that caught me by surprise, and it was very pleasant and well perceived surprise because I was expecting it to be all focused on them, before this, before she met Joel, and before that to be strictly the focus. But when it was that, it was just like wow, it just took me by surprise, and I enjoyed it, and it's just at this point here, you just think to yourself like, well, what if it was like this? Is it possible that it could be better? Is it possible that you could get any more enjoyment that you got out of it? And playing it was just such a high level of enjoyment. And like you said, DMC, that it was, it brought you back to that world again. And any excuse to get more time in that world and that environment is worth it.
Yep.
How'd you guys feel about the multi-faction combat? Because we haven't talked about that yet. That was
Awesome.
their new thing that they added. Fighting clickers, gangs, and infected and stalkers all at the same time.
So awesome. So awesome. And I can't wait to play on Survivors mode.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be throwing bricks and yeah, I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah, I played through on Survivor mode. It's or first off, I didn't really like the multi-faction thing. I think that made it too easy. Because the way I handled each time there's a situation like that, I wasn't like hanging back trying to pick them off one at a time. I immediately threw a brick right at the gang, had the clickers rush to them, and then they just fought each other. One race survived, and then it was just a single fight. That's what I did every single time, and it worked really well.
But isn't that okay? I mean, Ellie.
I know it's okay.
Ellie's-
I think that's what you're supposed to do, but
Yeah.
it just kind of when they said multi-faction combat, I thought you were actually. I guess there's not really any other way they could approach it. Otherwise, it would kind of like break the mechanics that we've grown to get accustomed to. But I don't know. That's the one thing that if I had one complaint, that's what it would be. Is that I feel like those specific fights made it too easy. I did play it on Survivor though. My first playthrough on normal, I was able to craft like I think 7 or 8 different like either Molotovs or nail bombs. The entire survival mode, I had 1 nail bomb the entire time, and I was looking for stuff. I was looking for supplies. There was not very many bottles. There weren't very many bricks. I was relying on that knife throughout the majority of my survivor play, which works exactly like the shiv.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it doesn't break. You can actually kill the clickers with it if you're sneaky enough. So that's almost what I used exclusively throughout the entire survivor mode. I almost feel like it was easier, but I think that was only because I knew what to expect. I just finished normal. The only part I got stuck on was the generator scene where you get the gas and you're trying to get or fill up the gas tank. I think that was the hardest part. I died a couple times at the very end and then a couple times at the generator, and that was it. My normal run, I died probably every fight scene at least once.
Yeah. That's consistent with my Last of Us play. I think I died more times on normal than I did on Survivor.
Yeah.
Weird, right?
Playing on Survivor, I thought was a lot more tense though, because if you don't have the listen mode, if you get caught, you have to sprint. You don't know where you can hide, where it's safe, where it's not. It actually really does change the feeling of the game quite a bit. So I like that a lot. What did you feel about the multi-faction combat? Mike, did you like it, or did you?
I enjoyed it. I think it fit for the story. I can see where it could like take away because it's the scene with Ellie and David after she hunts the deer, but at the same time a lot of that she's got David with her when they're fighting the hordes of the infected, but you've got Ellie by herself dealing with these people. She's not Joel, so she's got to she can't be like rush headlong into the action like you kind of can with him at times.
Mm-hmm.
She's got to kind of take a back seat and use things, and I think they did a great job with that. As far as that goes, and I enjoyed it. I kind of did the same thing that you did with it. I would let one side kind of pick off the other, and then I would just take out whoever was left. And most of the time, it was maybe one or two guys that were left. Because even then, like I'd use a Molotov to take out a couple of them, while they were surrounded together, to make my life a little easier.
Yeah. When you went in the pet store, my first time on normal mode, I thought that part was pretty tough. I didn't know how to approach that situation because I lured the two factions together, and in that sequence, the stalkers killed all the humans. So I had like 4 or 5 different stalkers running around the pet store. I couldn't figure out how to approach it. I tried quite a few different ways and kept getting killed. Finally, I just threw a bottle in the middle of the room. They all rushed to it, and then I threw a nail bomb and killed all of them. I thought it was pretty creative. I felt very smart when I did that. It was very satisfying.
Naughty Dog making us all feel like geniuses, right?
Yep. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about? That's pretty much all on my list. I just kind of want to keep this under an hour if possible.
Yeah. Nope. I'm really looking forward to their next games. On the PS4. One thing that's outside of the story I just wanted to mention is that their animations continue to be wonderful. I was amazed.
Yeah.
And looking at Ellie's ponytail flop at the back of her head every time she jogged versus run.
Yeah.
I thought the animation was super realistic. I know it's silly, but gosh dog it, man, those guys are great developers.
Yeah. One other thing, we started to talk on it, but I don't know, we went off on a tangent and never got back to it. When Ellie was playing with the Skelesier Magic 8 Ball, I thought it was really dark how her first question was, "Are we going to die today?" And as you continue to use it more and more, she starts off with these really dark questions, which those would be the first things that you think of on the top of your head if you're in this post-apocalyptic world. But as you continue asking questions, she gets all the dark stuff out of the way. By the time you're finished, they're asking questions that would be more along the lines of something a normal person like me or you would ask a Magic 8 Ball.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. If there's anybody watching that would like to call, give us your thoughts. The number is 302 TCP show. We've also got a Twitter. I've got a couple questions on Twitter that people had asked that I wanted to address in the show. Or you can ask questions in the live stream, in the chat. Trying to find it. I had it earlier. It was username Half Man Half Biscuit. So he's pretty frequent on the live stream lately. He asks, would you prefer Naughty Dog to work on a new IP or work on a sequel to The Last of Us? And this goes back to the article where they said there's not going to be any more single-player DLC. They want to focus more on a new IP or a potential sequel to The Last of Us. They said they're toying around with both ideas. They haven't really decided which route they're going to take. And they're not going to waste time porting The Last of Us to the PlayStation 4. So he's asking what you personally would like to see, a new IP from Naughty Dog or The Last of Us 2? So DMC, what's your response to that?
You know what? I think they're inclined and almost forced to do a Last of Us 2 based on the critical acclaim and success. And I can't blame them, and I would be eagerly anticipating it.
So you said a sequel?
Yeah, absolutely, man. A sequel.
Oh, okay.
It's got to be a sequel. And nothing precludes them from having to do a new IP. But I don't know if they cannot do a sequel based on what's going on, based on the success of The Last of Us. They have to do it.
Yeah. What about you, my guy? What would you prefer?
I'll take anything from Naughty Dog. I'm jonesing for.
You have to pick one. You have to pick one. You're the CEO of Naughty Dog. You're the head development, the head of the development team. You got to choose either a new IP or The Last of Us 2. Which one are you picking?
I would say I would go with the new IP, only because when it comes to The Last of Us, like I would like to see another story told in this world. I don't know if I want to see like more Joel and Ellie, but like I don't know like if I'd want to see the continuation of that story, but maybe like something new in The Last of Us world. But I would like to see a new IP from them. I'd like to, because with them, they're always going to go with whatever they think is going to be the best idea possible and the best story they can tell. So if and I would kind of hope that would be a new IP, and maybe we get Last of Us 2 sometime down the line. But as of right now, probably want a new IP.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I think I'd like a new IP. I think The Last of Us is perfect. I don't want them to mess around with it. I feel like if they kept going, I feel like it'd be repetitive, and I don't want that feeling. I really like what The Last of Us is right now as a whole. I don't think they could really elaborate on the story without making it feel repetitive. A lot of people, like when The Last of Us first came out and people had finished their first playthrough, I remember there was a lot of talk of what people would like to see next, and I remember one of the main things I kept seeing was have The Last of Us 2 focus on Ellie, kind of like Ellie's like coming of age story, just like similar to how Tomb Raider is, where it's Lara Croft, she's like a late 20s or however old she is in that game, I don't know, but she's going from basically nothing to becoming this fighter. They wanted something similar to that with Ellie, like her growing up, and have the series just follow Ellie from this point forward. I could see that being interesting. That would be cool, but I feel like that would feel too much like Tomb Raider. But
here's my great prediction, guys, and also it's coupled with a question, right? So everything seems to be a trilogy these days. 3 separate stories surrounded around in the Last of Us universe.
If they did that, I would like that. Yes.
Yeah, with the culmination and the third one with the cure, and then of course shut down The Last of Us after that. That I can see happening. What do you think about that, guys? 3 separate characters, stories, environments, all within that universe, leading up to a solution or finality.
With all these like post-apocalyptic worlds, I always like The Walking Dead is a good example. I always like getting to know this group of people, seeing how they survive, how they deal with certain situations, and then when it goes back in time, you have a different character, and you basically get to see the outbreak happen again and how they handled it. And then at some point, usually like those characters would intertwine and their stories meet. I've always been really into that, so I think that would be pretty cool.
Okay, that wouldn't be a bad idea. Like, I kind of look at basically that would be, focusing on new characters for 2 more games based off your suggestion there, DMC, and it would shift the focus from Joel and Ellie and focus it on somebody else. That would be a good idea, but it's like, do you want that though? Like,
As long as it's progressive, as long as it's progressing the story. I don't mean concurrently, 3 concurrent stories told in 3 separate games, but a progressive game. So we pick up, at any given point in the time in the future, and the story's told through different perspectives, but we're progressing through a solution at the end, either the wipeout of humanity or a potential cure. Gosh dog it, Naughty Dog, listen to the podcast. Do it.
See, like, I look at it like, some games lend themselves like naturally to sequels. Like Uncharted, because of who Nathan Drake is, it lends to sequels. Like the first 2 Infamous games, because of who Cole McGrath was, it easier lends to like a sequel. Like The Last of Us, I think would have to be more the world is what would lend it to a sequel, but not necessarily the characters. But that's just kind of my thought, and it's like I would love to see something like you're suggesting, D. I think that'd be right in line with what I would want from them in a sequel to The Last of Us. The same world, but not the same characters. Another story.
Yeah. So that was all the questions I have this week. Like I said, most people still haven't played the Left Behind, so I didn't expect to have a huge turnout. I think, but I wanted to get this out there as soon as we could, just so as people finish it, they have some other thoughts to listen to. So that wraps up our show for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Let us know what you think. We always like the feedback. We are still planning on doing the the original show, the Trophy Chasers Podcast, Episode 5. That'll be next Thursday, 6 p.m. Pacific Time, 9 o'clock Eastern Time, twitch.tv/Fliptriq. That'll be Thursday, February 20th. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week, guys.